With that, let me introduce to you our speaker for the day. He is currently a department chairman in the University of the Philippines Los Baños, Department of Civil Engineering, with his experience as a former geotechnical engineering consultant in CTI Engineering International Incorporated and a current geotechnical engineering consultant at respected companies such as DCCD Engineering Corporation, EH Season Engineers Corporation or Corporated, EA08 Groundtech Engineering Services, and more. We are surely on the right hands for today's journey, imparting us with his incredible and worthwhile stories on geotechnical engineering. Let us all welcome our speaker, Engineer Andre C. Cruz.
Hello, good afternoon to our audience. Um, Personally, I would like to thank the Philippine Institute of Civil Engineers Mapua University Student Chapter or PICE MUSC for inviting me as a guest speaker for this event. So I understand this event is the Modern Wonders, Ancient Science Exploring the World of Geotechnical Engineering. So my presentation for today is in line with the topic of the this this presentation by Mapua. So hopefully after this presentation, so you will have a deeper appreciation of about geotechnical engineering. Uh, as an introduction about myself, I am Assistant Professor Andre C. Cruz. I am currently the Department Chairman of UPLB Department of Civil Engineering. So I took up my undergraduate in UP Los Baños and I took up further studies in UP Diliman when I graduated last 2014 in the Master of Science in Geotechnical Engineering. So first off, let's answer this question. How do you become a geotechnical engineer in the Philippines? So, so based on my experience, so there are three criteria. So it can either be by work experience, so your work is in line with the field of geotechnical engineering. So it can also be by pursuing graduate studies. So you can after you graduate, after your undergraduate course, so you can pursue masteral and after that, so you can pursue also doctorate degree in geotechnical engineering here in the Philippines or in abroad. So since we're in a PICE seminar, so you can also apply for being a PICE geotechnical specialist. So you can look up at the website of PICE. So since there are criteria on how you can be a PICE geotechnical specialist, so I think you have to take up an exam. So I have not personally taken that exam. So basically my qualifications are these two. So I had prior work experience in becoming a geotechnical engineer. Then I pursued the graduate studies, particularly a master's degree in geotechnical engineering. So, so for my outline of my presentation, basically before we discuss innovations or landslides or ground improvement, so let's identify what is the problem. Then for the second part of the presentation, we're going to talk about the technological advances and innovations in geotechnical engineering. So hopefully, I can isisingit ko na rin yung aking work experience and uh, my current work as professor in the Department of Civil Engineering here in UP Los Baños. So the question that um, I think we need to answer is why is there a need to innovate? Now, so the innovations I will discuss in my presentation are in the context of the Philippine setting. So first off, so as mentioned in the outline, so let's talk about what is the problem. So in this figure, so we can see nature or as it is. No? So the problem starts when man interferes with nature. So, so man will create housing. No? So there is a need for shelter for man. So ang gagawin ng tao is gagawa siya ng bahay. No? So in the process of building this house, so makikita natin na maapektuhan niya itong puno. No? So mapuputol itong puno. No? So hindi din magtatapos. No? So man will build further. So gagawa siya ng so since dumadami yung population ng tao, so there is a need for more housing. No? So then hindi lang doon magtatapos, no? So since wala nang space, gagawin ng man is kahit do sa mountain, so magtatayo na rin siya ng bahay doon kasi wala nang space sa flat or sa flat area. So ang gagawin ng tao is dito na siya magtatayo, no? Kahit matarik yung bundok, so magtatayo pa rin ang tao dyan, no? Kasi wala nang space, no? So then hindi pa din magtatapos. So ang gagawin pa ng tao is magtatayo siya, since limited na yung space, so magtatayo na siya ng high-rise na building, no? So this high-rise building, so medyo malaki-laki na yung load na ini-impose niyan dito sa ating soil, no? Mapapansin nyo is it's very close to water. So hindi pa din magtatapos ang intervention ng man sa nature. So since wala nang space, so natayuan niya na yung flat area. So naputol niya na yung puno. So nagtayo na rin siya ng mga high-rise na building para mas maraming maka-occupy, or nagtayo na rin siya sa bundok na medyo matarik. So, pero hindi pa din magtatapos ang problem. So magre-reclaim na rin siya sa body of water. No? So magre-reclaim siya. So when I say reclaim, so tatambakan niya ito ng lupa. Then magtatayo siya ng further structures. No? So you can see this happening right now sa atin sa Manila Bay. No? So madaming reclamation projects ang nangyayari sa Manila Bay. So part of the problem, so our problem identified is space. No? So since dumadami yung population, so previously unusable space must now be considered for human expansion. So that's problem number 1. So in situ soil. No? So first off, before defining in situ soil, so let's start by defining some civil engineering materials that we learned in class. So concrete. Concrete is an engineered material. So pwede nating, we can modify the concrete strength, FC prime of concrete. So it can vary from 2,500 to 6,000 PSI. No? So kaya nating specify yan. Basta sasabihin lang natin doon sa concrete supplier natin. So what concrete strength we need. So it can be either be 28 days or early strength. So depende pa rin sa requirement ng tao, it can be engineered. Deform bar. So steel. So it is available in grade 33, 40, 60 KSI, The diameter, it can be 8, 10, 12, 16, 20, 25, 26, 10. So length, it can be from 6, 7.5, 9, 10.5, 12 meters. So this is also an engineered material. So this is also man-made. So this is deformed bar. So ito yung mga usual na ginagamit natin sa construction. Structural steel, it is available in different shapes and sizes. So strength, as per specifications, so length, I believe 6 to 12 meters. Meron yan, no? So in this figure, this is a wide flange dito. So I believe na nakapag-steel design na naman siguro kayo. So I think you're available. You're aware of this material. Well, now, tumbukin din natin yung ating main point. So in situ soil, no? So in situ soil is a question mark, no? So hindi siya engineered material. So pag pupunta tayo sa site, yung lupa doon, it is as it is, no? So hindi natin pwedeng utusan yung soil na maging magkaroon siya ng bearing capacity na 300, 200, 100. So hindi po pwede yun. So it is what it is, no? So sand. So digging deeper, so there are two types of soil. So I think from your geotechnical engineering class, so there are two major classifications of soil. So sand. So in this figure under a microscope, so this is a figure of sand. So the range of size of sand is from 4 mm to 0.075 mm. Yeah. Its term is cohesionless soil. So pag sinabi natin cohesionless, automatic sands yun. Then its relative density can be specified as, can be called as loose to dense or very dense. So a problem with sands is it can be a problem if it is in a loose saturated state. So saturated, basa. All the voids are being occupied with water. So the next classification, major classification of soil is clays. So particularly mag-focus tayo sa clays and silts, pero mag-focus tayo sa clays. So the figure on the right is a picture of clays. So kung makikita nyo, hindi siya ganun kasing linis no picture ng sands as compared to kanina. So the range of size of clays and silts are 0.075 mm and smaller. So these are what we term as fine grained soils. Its consistency can be termed as soft to hard. So further classification, so ang difference ng silts and versus clays is silts is inert. So hindi siya active. So clays are very active pag nahahaluan ng tubig. So the problem with clays is its high affinity for water may absorb 100 times its own volume. So it can also shrink or swell. So it has high shrink swell potential, or it has a high potential for volume change. So as a note, so it is because of clays that geotechnical engineering was born. So as to put it in a different way, dahil sa clays, dahil sa problems na na-encounter ng man sa clays, kaya na-born yung geotechnical engineering profession. So soils found in situ is often a combination of sands, clays, and silts with varying degree of compaction. So as mentioned, so maraming yung soil, meron siyang voids And yung voids na yon can either be filled with air or filled with water. So, in situ, that is in situ soil. The problem starts lalo na sa atin sa Pilipinas. So, madalas ang bagyo at lindol sa atin. So, haluan natin yung in situ soil ng storm plus earthquake. So, yan yung nangyayari. No? So, this figure on the top is the due to is a picture of a building in Dagupan. So, this was in the 1990 Luzon earthquake. So, ang nangyari dito is nag-liquefy yung soil sa ilalim nitong building, kaya siya tumabingi. Then, this figure below is a landslide that occurred in Cebu in 2018 due to a mining activity. No? Sa likod ng slope na to. So, nagmamine sila, I believe, dito. Then, nag-landslide yung area nito. So, if makikita nyo, so meron mga bahayan dito, no? So, this landslide, I believe, nagkaroon ng loss of life. So, with that, no, so I think na na-identify natin yung problem, no? So, which is very important. So, before we go to the landslides and ground improvement, so mag-discuss muna tayo ng types of in situ testing. So, paano natin nalalaman kung clay or sand yung lupa natin, and paano natin nalalaman kung loose, dense, hard, or very hard ba yung ating soil. Kasi that is very important na meron tayong in situ testing para makapaggawa tayo ng tamang recommendation. No? So first thing we need, of course, is data. And we need good data. So the purpose of in situ testing is number one is to collect soil samples. So then we need also to approximate shear strength. Yun nga, no? So we need to identify kung yung in situ soil ba is loose, very dense, hard, soft, medium stiff, etc. So, pag meron na tayo nun, meron na tayong soil samples, then meron na tayong approximate ng shear strength, so we can approximate yung geotechnical engineering properties of the soil. So, for this figure on the right are some of the methods na ginagamit. Pero so for our purpose of our discussion, so let's discuss lang SPT, CPT, and itong shear wave. So meron pa pala. So in situ testing can also measure the groundwater table, which is very important. So tubig will always be a very important factor in geotechnical engineering, and yun. So as I mentioned, so this we will focus our discussion dito sa in situ testing on these three types of tests: the standard penetration test, cone penetration test, and the geophysical test na kasama dito yung shear wave. So the standard penetration test, so if you're very observant, habang I believe nakakita na kayo nito, so baka hindi nyo lang alam na ito pala yun. So maraming projects ngayon ito ang ginagamit. So kung nasa labas kayo sa kalsada, then pag nakakita kayo ng rig na ganito, so they are doing standard penetration test. So basically, meron siyang tripod, then meron binababang pipe sa ilalim ng lupa to collect soil samples. So the objective of the standard penetration test is to obtain soil samples, to approximate the in situ soil strength, and to measure the ground water table through the hole drilled in the ground. So as a further illustration, so para ma-approximate yung shear strength ng ating soil. So basically, merong hammer na dinadrop at a standard weight and a standard height. Then binibilang yung number of drops para mag-penetrate yung ating pipe dun sa soil. So basically, what we are after is the SPT and value. Sorry, nababasa. So basically, the higher the SPT and value, the harder the soil is. No? So kung ang range nung N value natin is from 0 to 10, so yan yung mga malalambot na lupa. Then from 50, yun yung matigas. Just to give you an idea. So ito po yung example ng soil na nare-retrieve sa dito sa pipe na to. So this soil sample will be further evaluated in the laboratory. So the problem with the SPT is it's prone to human error and it is slow. So matagal po kasi medyo manual yung process. So this is a graph of SPT and value, SPT chart. So as I mentioned kanina, so ito yung N value. So this is 0 to 50. So ang expectation natin is the deeper we go, so doon patigas ng patigas yung lupa. So dito sa depth na to, so matigas na yung lupa. So ito na yung mga SPT 50. Then correspondingly, makikita rin natin yung type of soil. So from 0 to 2 is sandy clay, 2 to 6 meters is sand, and after that is sandstone. So rock na po yung ating layer. So the cone penetration test, this is an improvement basically from the SPT kasi nga sinasabi natin is prone to error and matagal yung SPT. So in the cone penetration test, so medyo electronic yung kanyang approach. So merong cone, so pinupush siya hydraulically ng equipment. Then syempre, so kung matigas yung lupa, nare-record yun dito kasi merong electronics dito sa tip ng ating, so nami-measure yung pressure. So this is an example nung cone penetration. So ang limitation lang nito is this is ideal for soft to stiff clay and loose to medium dense sand only. Kasi nga, tinutulak lang siya. So after pag na-reach niya na tong stiff clay or tong medium dense sand, titigil na. Hindi na, or madadamage na yung cone. Kaya hindi na pwede siyang gamitin after that. So geophysical test. So these are more on electronic test na rin. So basically, marami siyang types. So cross-hole, down-hole, georesistivity. Advantage nito is this can cover a large area. And basically, yung strength of soil can be approximated due to the measured shear wave velocity. Ang makukuha po natin dito sa geophysical test is shear wave velocity, and results must be interpreted by an expert. Okay, so ito yung correlation ng shear waves sa SPT. So this source is from MECP 2015. I believe na meron kayong access lahat doon. So another purpose of geophysical test is to detect cavities. So this project site, so dahil sa geophysical testing, so na-identify yung merong mga voids dun sa or cavity dun sa site. So ito po yun. So very important po yan kasi ayaw natin na yung building natin is papatong sa mga ganyang site. So kung merong mga voids, so kailangan meron tayong gawing engineering intervention. So understanding the geology of the site would be very helpful for this project. So tong Boracay Island, so very famous siya na medyo maraming voids dyan sa area. So the extent of the cavity would be difficult through SPT and CPT kasi single point lang yung mini-measure natin. So dito sa geophysical testing, this can cover a whole area, very wide area. So as a summary do sa mga diniscuss kong in situ testing is for the 3 SPT so disadvantages is slow. So CPT, ang advantage niya is accurate for soft to stiff clays. So may encounter refusal after medium dense sand and hard clays. So geophysical testing can cover a large area on one test alone. So this needs a pre-drilled hole usually from an SPT borehole. So a note for this testing is the ideal soil exploration program for large projects would be a combination of the 3. Pero kung yung mga typical na testing natin for a 3-story house or a 2-story house, so okay na po yung SPT. So this is the standard na ginagamit natin dito sa Pilipinas. So now, let's move forward to ground improvement. No? So this is a question that I ask my students in my introductory geotechnical engineering class. So question, no? So if I stamp my feet on the ground with loose sandy soil, so am I performing ground improvement? No? So the answer po dyan is yes. No? So when you're stamping your ground, when you're stamping on the ground with loose sandy soil, so yes, you are performing compaction of the ground. Kasi yung energy tinatransmit nyo sa ground, so nagkakaroon siya ng reaction na nalalesen niya yung voids dun sa soil. So yung mga ground improvement methods na I will discuss in this presentation, compaction, soil replacement, geosynthetics, so ground improvement using grouting, ground improvement using stone columns, then screw piles, so maybe hindi ko na ito discuss. So based on my MS teacher, so basically nung 2000 and earlier, so 1980s, 1990s, so meron lang dalawang klase ng I believe so tatlo, no? So tatlo lang yung ginagawa natin dati, no? So either compaction, so if I have this soil condition wherein ang soil ko is soft or loose soil, so pwede ako mag-compaction. Soil replacement, so ibig sabihin papalitan ko yung soft and loose soil underneath ng aking pundasyon, papalitan ko siya ng engineered fill, or I will resort to driven or bored piles. So driven or bored piles, that basically the concept is to transfer the load from the building to the competent strata, which is the dense sand soil or the bedrock. So as we innovated, so as nagkaroon ng maraming research, so dahil nga yung solutions dati available was either deep or for shallow foundations, so nagkaroon ng innovations, no? So marami ng ground improvement techniques ngayon. So these are ground injection, jet grout or stone columns, or screw piles. No, so this can be as an alternative to driven or bored piles or this soil replacement. No, so sa ground improvement, so yun nga, so yun siya. No, so These ground improvement methods can be an alternative to deep foundations. So, compaction equipment. So, a vibratory roller is best for, this is a smooth wheel roller, so vibratory roller. So this provides 100% coverage, and this is, take note, no, this is best for cohesionless soils. So sa mga sandy soils, so this is best for that, no. Ang limitation nito is related to this question, no. So if I stamp my feet on ground on saturated clay, so am I performing ground improvement? So yung kanina, kung if naalala nyo, this is the same question. But kanina, ang sinabi ko is loose saturated sand. So ngayon, if I stamp my feet on ground with saturated clay, am I performing ground improvement? The answer to that is no. No? So magkaiba po ang properties ng sand sa clay. So if you use the same method, if you're stamping your feet, that you're simply gonna displace the clay. So ang answer po dyan is no. So ang ideal method po to use if you have clay soil on your site is a sheep's foot roller. So ito po yun, no? So meron siyang mga large projections sa kanyang sa drum. Unlike dito sa figure on the left, so smooth wheel roller siya. This is best for cohesionless soils. And for the sheep's foot roller is best for cohesive soils. Pakitandaan po yun kasi marami pong hindi nakaka-alala yun sa site, sa actual practice. So ang innovation, so the problem is kung makikita nyo, yung lift thickness is small. No? So around 150 to 300 mm lang ang lift thickness. No? So if you have an embankment project which is 10 meters high, so that will require around 30 lifts. So medyo matagal-tagal po yung construction process po nito. So ang innovation na naisip nila nito is for the use of impact rollers. So ito is hindi na circular yung kanyang shape. So meron siyang, yung mass nito is iba. So pag gumulong to, so this will inject more energy into our soil. So kasi nga non-cylindrical yung kanyang shape, ang lift thickness na pwede dito is 1 meter and greater. No? So this is an innovation na ginamit nila due to the limitations ng ating mga available na compaction thickness. So dito sa Pilipinas, may mga gumagamit na nito yung mga big ticket projects natin. Pero binihira. So another thing that I would like to discuss, so we're done with compaction, so geosynthetics. So geosynthetics are manufactured fabrics made of polymer that are used in soil, and they have the ability to separate, filter, reinforce, protect, or drain. So marami pong types of geosynthetics: geotextile, geogrid, geonet, etc. And each of them has its separate function. So geotextile will check all the boxes. So ito yung tingnan lang natin in a nutshell kung paano siya gumagana. So for example, we have a road project. So our road, so ang nangyari sa atin is ang in situ soil natin is very soft, saturated soil. So basa po na malambot yung ating lupa. So we will put these rock layers, these stone layers are what we our base course, and this is our pavement. And ito po yung ating top of pavement natin. So So what will happen pag ito po ang ginawa natin? So magkakaroon ng intrusion. Kasi yung ating mga gravel layers will intrude sa ating soil. So sa ating very soft saturated soil. So kaya yung mga pavement natin, makikita nyo, is nagkakaroon ng, kasi ang design niya siya as flexible, so kaya siya nag-fail, no? Kasi dahil nagkakaroon ng intrusion. Yung base course layer natin na i-introduce is humahalo dun sa very soft saturated soil natin. So we do not want that to happen. So that is where geosynthetics comes into play. So this one, so lalagyan natin siya ng geotextile separator. So ang mangyari dito is the function of the geotextile separator is para hindi humalo yung ating base course layer dun sa ating very soft saturated soil. So an example of this is in the figure on the right. So makikita natin yung ating soft saturated soil layer, naglatag tayo ng geotextile, then eventually this gravel layer lalagyan din natin. So this is an embankment project. So that is basically the function of geosynthetics for this, or the geotextile in this case. So moving forward, dahil nga, so let's discuss innovation and ground improvement. So there are many types of ground improvement. So one type is ground improvement using ground injection. So under ground injection, so marami pa rin types. So napakaraming nagiging innovation. So meron tayong compaction grouting, permeation grouting, fracture grouting, and soil replacement. So I will leave that up to you for the studies na lang. So one method na I'm quite familiar with is grout improvement using grout injection, particularly by use of jet grouting. So basically jet grouting is a method wherein yung high pressure, nag-introduce tayo ng cement, nag-inject tayo ng high pressure cement into the ground and hinahalo natin yung cement doon sa in-situ soil. So the diameter na napo-form ng soil cement is around 0.6 meters to 1.2 meters diameter. So the length of na posible as per my experience, maabot ng 30 meters yung kayang ng depth na kaya i-jet grout. So unfortunately, hindi ko ma-play yung video ng jet grouting, pero these are some pictures. No? So ang diameter ng soil cement na napo-form, maximum as per our experience is 1.2 meters. Then this figure on the right, so this is an example of a jet grout soil cement column. So binunot lang namin to sa lupa as per client specifications. So gusto kasi makita ng client na kung may nabubuo talaga na soil cement. So ito ang proof na effective yung jet grouting for this project. So basically, basing on this figure on the left, so what is particularly good about jet grouting is it is basically applicable for all soil types, from gravel, sand, silts, and clays. So problems identified with grouting are the quantification of the grout or the cement that we are putting into the soil and the measurement of the corresponding improvement. So the next topic that I would like to discuss, basically this is what Pais Mapuba asked me to discuss, is about slope stabilization or slope stability. So before we get into slope stability, let's discuss first basic concept of a slope. So on the figure on the left, so this is our slope. This is, so if we consider this sliding plane, so this is the sliding plane. So what we need to consider is the weight, this slope mass. So this is the weight of this slope mass and the strength at this interface. So we have this equation for factor of safety. Basically, Fs is equal to the shear strength of the soil at the interface divided by the weight of the slope mass. So generally, slopes are stable. So what happens in a static condition? So what factors that can affect the weight of the slope mass is when pag umulan, so when there's rainfall, so masasaturate yung ating soil. So pwedeng bumigat yung ating slope mass kasi nagiging saturated yung ating soil. And dahil sa saturation, so pwede rin na humina or bumaba yung ating shear strength at the interface. So kaya nagkakaroon ng variation sa factor of safety. So dahil sa event na yon, so dahil sa ulan, or it can be also by an earthquake. So pag earthquake, so yung force na i-induce is nagpapababa ng shear strength ng ating soil at the interface. So there are basically four types of failure. So superficial failure, so local failure, so ito yung mga shallow. So mga shallow types of failure to. So we can also, medyo ang ano nito is parang erosion type lang siya. So toe slope failure is yung slip circle o yung ends at the toe. Then yung global failure is ito yung mga deep-seated na landslides. So kung malaki yung radius ng kanyang failure, so lumalampas pa ng toe yung kanyang failure. So in my experience, so of all the subfields in geotechnical engineering, slope stability is the most critical. So you might baka magtanong nyo kung bakit ko nasabi yun. Kasi pag nag-fail yung slope, is the failure of the slope may lead to loss of life. So yun yung parang pinaka-iniiwasan natin, no? So ito yung nakakatakot pag nagkaroon ng slope failure, is this may lead to loss of life. So in the following slide, so basically these are my experiences in slope assessment or slope stability. So this is a geohazard assessment project in Leyte, because of the 2017 earthquake. So basically my task there was to identify and analyze yung risk and yung mga mitigation sa mga construction projects ng company namin at that time. So these are the sample local failures lang. So mababaw lang siya. Pero yung significance niya is, if you can look closely, our projects there was these pipelines, no? So these pipelines carries gas do sa aming mga geothermal na projects. So na-damage yung aming mga pipelines dahil sa local failure nung nagkaroon ng landslide, nung nagkaroon ng earthquake. So another example of this one is this recent picture. So same, no? So na-damage yung aming mga pipeline dahil nung 2017 na earthquake. So basically my job there was to mitigate yung slope and to analyze yung risk kung pwede pa ba na magtayo ulit dyan ng pipeline or ilipat na. So that was part of my task there. So for design, so this one is our past project sa company ko dati. So basically what what the client wanted was to build a building. So yung building niya, gusto niya located dito. So the problem was it was on the toe of the slope. So basically this was yung problem natin kanina, no? So man is reclaiming space. So gusto niya nang magtayo kahit sa mga area na sloping yung ground. So this is a perfect example of that. So ang gagawin natin, so this is the original ground line. So kailangan natin mag-cut. So basically we want to cut this slope to give way to the construction of building. So ito po yung ating building. So kailangan natin i-cut yung portion na ito. So ito na yung magiging final slope natin. So this one. So what I did there, what ang ginawa natin is nagkaroon tayo ng design. So analysis and design. So this is this picture now is from the slope stability software na ginamit ko that time. So this is the building for your reference and this is yung ating cut slope. So dahil kinat natin yung slope, so kailangan natin i-analyze for slope stability yung ating slope. So the parameters, so these are the parameters that I used. So based on the geotechnical investigation, so bato yung ating site. So ito yung corresponding cohesion and friction ng ating site. Then I introduced nails. So these are soil nails. So these are common technique na ginagamit natin for slope stability. So slope stability mitigation. So, pag meron na tayong input, then meron na tayong mitigation, then we can proceed with yung analysis natin. So, based dito sa ating analysis, so yung critical slip circle na produce ng ating analysis is, so if naalala niyo yung kanina, sa figure ko, so this is a toe failure. No, so kasi malapit sa toe yung ating failure. Then ang FS niya is 1.279. So for slope stability analysis, so basically we want a factor of safety greater than 1. No, so dito sa ating example, so FS is 1.279, so we can conclude that the slope is stable and the building can be built. So for this project, so ang naging design is 3 layers at 2.5 meter spacing and 9 meters long and 200 mm diameter soil nail with 28 mm rebar. So kung makikita natin yung detail, so ito na yung natayo na yung project, then yung detail niya is ito. Ito yung soil nail na design. So this is a 200 mm soil nail. So basically meron siyang 1 deformed bar dito sa 32 mm sa gitna, then filled siya with cement grout, no? At 200 mm diameter. So ito po yung soil nailing machine na ginamit po pambutas. Ito po yung mga corresponding na sorry medyo maliit yata yung figure. So this is yung facing na lang to. Ito yung shotcrete. So this is yung detail ng shotcrete. That is a 100 mm thick shotcrete. So yung soil nails, as mentioned, yun siya. Yung mga nakapato. This is shotcrete. So my role is to design yung slope stability and to analyze yung safety ng ating cut slope. So, yung building na itatayo is nandito. So, dito siya. So, the next topic that I would like to discuss is about the recent advances in geotechnical softwares. So, Siyempre, slope stability. Then let's talk about SSI and ito, no? So yung most recent na ginagamit is yung GIS mapping. So basically, you can perform slope stability using manual calculation or yung time namin during the masteral. So Excel pa yung ginagamit namin. So the problem with Excel calculations is you can only analyze one slip circle at a time, and the problem is kailangan mo mag-analyze ng multiple slip circles. So kailangan mo gumamit ng AutoCAD, Excel. So napakatrabaho niya. No? So you can analyze only one slip circle at a time. Then ang naging improvement nun is yung mga slope stability softwares. So this is a two-dimensional na slope stability software. Ang naging advancement nito is nakaka-analyze na siya ng multiple slip circles at any given time. So mas naging madali na yung analysis and mas naging convenient na. Then recently, so meron nang lumalabas ng mga 3D slope stability analysis software. So these are very powerful softwares na nasisimulate niya talaga yung actual ground condition. So yun. So merong nag-offer ng mga free na dati. So one is yung Plaxis. Kaso ngayon wala na yata. The major limitation dito is medyo mahal yung software, meron kamahalan pag yung mga 3D na slope stability analysis. Note nyo na mga halos mga 1 million pataas ang cost ng mga softwares ng mga 3D slope stability. So pero this is very ideal for big projects. No? Sulit siya gamitin. So some recent advances also is for the soil structure interaction, or short name is SSI. So basically, our usual practice, if you're a structural engineer, so you build the building structural model. So binomodel mo to, then you either approximate a pin or a fixed connection dito sa ground. No? So hindi mo na mo-model yung soil. So then you design your foundation. So this is also the role of the structural engineer. So ang nagiging basis mo dito is yung bearing capacity na binibigay ng geotech. Bearing cap. Sorry, paano nasulat? So basically, this is the role of the structural engineer. Then on the figure on the left, so this is a geotechnical analysis software. So basically, we're simulating yung foundation na binigay na ginawa ng structural engineer. Then we're doing a settlement analysis. So this one, sorry, medyo malabo lang. So pero basically this is settlement analysis. So this is being done on 2 or maybe 3, tatlo pa nga, no? So merong software for the structural model, merong software for the foundation model, then yung sa geotech part is merong isang software. So merong tatlong software para dun sa isang building na ina-analyze. So ang problem dito is different assumptions between the structural and the geotech. So medyo hindi siya optimum gamitin. So but this is basically what we use, lalo na dito sa Pilipinas. So this is a common practice. So merong sariling model yung structural, then merong sariling model ang geotech. So basically due to recent advances nga sa software, so kung makikita nyo dito, so yung ating structural na model, so ito po siya. So ito siya, yung ating structural model. Yung foundation natin, nandito na rin. Then yung ating soil model is, ito na po siya. Dito na rin siya. So, kaya nyo nang i-simulate lahat yung tatlong software, yung tatlong software into one. So, this is what we call the soil structure interaction. So, this is a very powerful tool. Then, yun nga, yung note ko kanina, sorry, medyo naharangan lang. Softwares like this cost around 1 million din lang. So, medyo pricey siya. Pero kung malalaki yung mga projects nyo, and international, so this is gonna be worth it. So, another recent, hindi naman siya recent, pero medyo ginagamit na rin natin. So, GIS mapping. So for our part, so kung sa geotechnical engineering use, so meron tayong mga borehole data. So yung mga borehole data is for so if you consider this drawing on the right side, so yung mga circles, yan yung mga known na borehole points. So meron siyang so for this particular area, so marami siyang borehole points. So what we want to use, we want to utilize GIS mapping para maka-generate tayo ng bearing capacity map for this particular area. Kasi marami tayong data at any given points, so gusto natin gumamit ng GIS mapping using statistics, correlation, so we can project values kung saan walang data. No? So kung dito sa area to wala, so we can use GIS mapping. So para siya na yung mag-interpolate ng data dito sa mga walang data, then so we can come up with a bearing capacity map. So an example nito is this bearing capacity map from Binyan, Laguna. So basically, makita natin dito, so Binyan, if you're familiar with the area, so tabi po siya ng Laguna Lake. So ang Laguna Lake area natin is ito, dito. So what we can conclude, sorry medyo malabo lang yata, is these areas, ito yung mga mabababa yung bearing capacity. So which makes sense since mababa yung bearing capacity pag malapit sa lake, kasi yung soil doon is soft and loose or loose dahil nga yung deposition, yung soil doon is deposition galing sa lake. So this was a thesis of my past student last 2022. So these are some softwares na you can explore particularly itong GIS kung gusto nyo gamitin siya for thesis. So advances in testing and monitoring, particularly in landslides and deep excavation monitoring. These are some. So for landslide monitoring, so these are typically what we use, particularly sa ginagamit namin sa company namin dati. So we use a tilt meter. So this is a tilt meter using the concept of an accelerometer. So tilt meter, so what we want to detect in the tilt meter is movement or tilt along the slope. So we use soil moisture sensors para makuha natin yung moisture content at any given time sa slope. Then we use a rain gauge. So this measures the amount of rainfall at an area of interest. So the combination of the three, so we have the tilt meter, we want to measure tilt along the slope. Then these are our soil moisture sensors. So at varying depths along the slope. Then meron tayong rain gauge. So lahat ng data ng tilt meter, soil moisture sensor, and the rain gauge, papasok yun lahat dito sa ating data logger. So basically ang importance nito is we want to monitor kung meron tayong construction project or meron tayong high value building dito sa toe ng slope. So any impending movement, so at least mawawarn yung workers or yung mga tao sa building na mag-fail yung slope. So an example data sa project is So ito po yung ating sample data from our that I can present. So rainfall is from the rain gauge. So kung makikita natin dito at this particular time, so umulan po. So umulan sa ating site kung sa ating. So ang naging reaction, so pag umulan is magkakaroon ng increase in moisture content. So that makes sense kasi yung water will introduce, so nagkaroon ng higher moisture content at this particular time. But what we are particularly interested is yung tilt or yung galaw ng slope. So at this particular time, so hindi makikita natin walang movement sa slope. So we can conclude that the slope is stable or walang impending movement do sa ating slope. So ang importance kasi nito is nandun sa next slide. So, ang importance kasi ng ating data is, kung nga, so this is our setup. So, merong slope, then meron tayong monitoring devices, then merong nagtatrabaho do sa base ng slope. Is kung yung data natin for that particular case is kung do sa tilt, so umulan, so nagkaroon ng tilt. So, kung nagkaroon ng tilt is magkakaroon ng sudden jump do sa ating data. So, we can warn yung workers na may danger or may impending slope failure. So, kung sabihin natin ito yung magiging ating slip surface, so they can evacuate. No? So, that is the value of this landslide monitoring devices. So, this can serve as an early warning device for people, no? So to prevent loss of life. So kung the concept of that monitoring, so we can also apply to hindi lang siya sa slopes, but particularly pwede natin siya gamitin sa mga buildings, no? So particularly pag sa mga congested areas na maraming tinatayong mga building. So this example of this is this picture. So this is an existing building. So ito post ito ng Skyway. So makikita natin dito. So nagkakaroon ng deep excavation. So naghuhukay sila ng malalim. No? So meron ng mga devices na ginagamit. So basically same concept. So if you naalala nyo kanina, I mentioned na yung tilt meter is gumagamit sila ng accelerometer to measure yung tilt. So basically, pag sa mga deep excavation projects, mga accelerometer din ang ginagamit. So kung ito yung ating excavation, so ito yung ating deep excavation, then ang gusto natin is i-monitor yung tilt nitong building na to, pwede tayo magkabit. So yun, so nagkabit siya dito, then nagkabit din siya doon sa ilalim mismo. So these are also a series of accelerometers. Basically, we want to measure again yung tilt. No? So kung nagkaroon ng failure tong deep excavation na to, so magre-reflect yun dito sa building, sa readings dito, sa tilt meter natin dahil nakakabit siya dito. So ginagawa nila ngayon sa madalas ngayon is yung wireless off-site monitoring. So, kunwari, meron tayong existing building. So, kahit saan man yan, kabitan natin ng, so then, kunwari magkakaroon ng deep excavation project. So, may maghuhukay sa tabi ng building. So, pag kinabitan natin yan ng tilt meters, basta nakakonect yan sa Wi-Fi, then we can access that kung nasaan man tayo. No? So, we can access it in our cell phone. We can access it in our laptop or in our gadgets or iPad. No? So that is the ginagawa nila ngayon. So pag sinabing wireless off-site monitoring, basta yung mga equipment natin for monitoring nakakabit sa Wi-Fi, we can access it kahit wala tayo mismo dun sa site. So that is a common practice na ngayon. So this is a typical project na-involve ako last pandemic, so 2020 or 2021. So building monitoring, so monitor namin tong building na to dahil merong deep excavation project. So basically this is a snapshot of the daily values, no, of the tilt meter. So basically ang ayaw natin is tong values na to is biglang tumaas. So pag tumaas to, ibig sabihin nagtitilt yung ating building. So we must warn yung owner. So hopefully, thankfully naman, so medyo stable naman yung naging readings natin. So I think this is medyo malapit na ako matapos. Then I'd like to talk about some thesis topics related to landslides from my past students. No? I'd like to talk about prediction of landslide occurrence through precipitation threshold, then some improvement of shear strength. So these are laboratory tests. Itong improvement of shear strength. So this was a topic of my former student na nakatira sa Catanduanes. So as you can see at the Catanduanes, ang landslide susceptibility map niya, yung island of Catanduanes, is pulang-pula. So medyo malabo lang yata. So if you look at the susceptibility map from PBOX, so pulang-pula halos yung Catanduanes. What is also interesting about this one is pag pumapasok kasi yung bagyo, dito siya parati pumapasok. Ang unang dinadaanan ng bagyo is yung Catanduanes. So my student was able to get rainfall data kasi may mga rain gauge ang Pag-asa. So along these red circles, then meron siyang nakuhang mga landslide data. So from DPWH. So itong mga points na to, mga succeeding points na to, is landslide data na nakuha niya from past records from DPWH records. No, so yung landslide occurrence niya is merong date and merong magnitude ng landslide, kung heavy, kung deep, kung local, so meron. No? So yung rainfall data, so meron from rain gauge from Pag-asa stations distributed along the circumferential road of Catanduanes. And yung slope dun sa kanyang area of interest is from digital elevation model from USGS. So from her study, so nagkaroon siya ng, dahil nga meron siyang data, then he came up with some statistical analysis. So nagkaroon siya ng mga graph na ganito. No? So then nagkaroon siya ng mga equations relating cumulative rainfall to the duration of rainfall. Then na-plot niya yung mga landslide data niya. So nagkaroon siya ng graphs showing na pwedeng gamitin sa early warning alerts. Now, so pag na-exceed yung cumulative rainfall and yung duration, so mapipredict nitong equation na to yung landslide occurrence. So that is the significance ng naging thesis na to. Then improvement do sa mga naghahanap ng thesis is I recommend na mag-research kayo about remote sensing data from satellite. So yung mga satellite sa space, so namomonitor na nila yung movement Kung eventually anything namomonitor nila. So you just have to retrieve yung data so you can correlate it with past landslides. So this can be, I will leave this up to the students. No? So i-search nyo nila. So remote sensing data from satellite for landslide applications. So improvement of shear strength. No? So we want to improve shear strength kasi nga nag-fail yung ating slope sa interface. So, ang isang factor doon is yung shear strength at the interface ng ating slope. So, kaya pwede itong, so these are some past theses of my students. So, we want to add some admixtures sa soil para tumaas ang kanyang shear strength. So, in this past thesis of my student, so ang ginamit niya is recycled, so discarded waste glass. So, ginawa niya. So, itong picture na to is in powdered form. Dahil nga, imimix siya sa soil, so kailangan siyang i-grind. So, one particular thing na gusto kong i-highlight is hindi tayo pwedeng pumili ng kahit anong materyales. Basta maisipan natin na ihalo sa soil. So, ang kailangan is meron kayong prior research or background do sa inyong materials na pipiliin. So, in this case, so nagpa-chemical composition test yung aking student. So, it came out na yung SiO2 and calcium oxide niya is mataas. No? So, tatlong glass yung kanyang kinonsider. So, brown glass, clear glass, and reflective glass. So, results naman, medyo mataas yung mga naging percent composition ng SiO2 and yung calcium oxide. So, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, ang ginamit niya sa kanyang thesis is itong clear glass. So, basically what we are after is yung composition ng inyong materials should have composition similar to cement. So, ang cement, so medyo mataas ang kanyang calcium oxide and SiO2. So para eventually may expect natin na pag hinalo natin yung ating waste material sa soil is merong chance na mag-improve or tumaas yung shear strength. So going to the results ng thesis ng ating student. So this is the test soil sample. So this is yung ating soil sample is about 20 by 60 mm, 25 mm diameter by 60 mm yung height. Then sinubject siya, so maswerte kami dito sa UP. So meron kaming triaxial test. No? So these soil samples are subjected dito sa aming triaxial test. So based dito sa results ng aking student, so makikita natin na yung percent glass content increases, yung cohesion increases up to a certain point. So yung 9%. So we can, based do sa graph na to, so we can conclude na yung 9% powder glass content yun. So, hanggang 14.92 kilopascal yung tinaas niya. So, after that, so, bumaba na. So, ang mako-conclude natin dito is yung 9% yung optimum mix for the powder glass content pag hinalo sa soil. So, but this is still subject to further statistical test para maging valid yung ating conclusion. So, I will leave this up to you. So, this is also one particular topic of interest for me since UPLB is an agricultural school. So, improvement of shear strength pa rin, geotech, pero grassroots yung ginagamit natin. So, agricultural, so since maraming grass sa UP, since as mentioned nga, agricultural school ang UP. So, particularly this picture is from a hybrid napier grass. So, particularly what we are interested is in quantifying yung increase in shear strength ng grassroots sa soil pag dumami yung grassroots. So in this test, so the grassroots in soil is subjected to a direct shear test machine. Then also, so same concept. So we're investigating yung increase in shear strength. So yung kanina, cohesion. So this one, angle of friction naman yung ating measure. So the month 0 or the control is yung soil lang. So month 1 is yun na yung merong roots. So month 2, 2 months na yung grass, 3 months and so on. So based on this trend, so yun nga. So habang tumatagal yung months, dumadami yung roots, then napakonclude dito na tumataas yung shear strength. So basically, this is kind of my conclusion for my presentation. Problem identification. So basically, you're gonna learn it as you gain experience. So you will identify problems in the industry. So technological advances and innovations. So very critical ang in-situ testing kasi good data is important for proper interpretation. Para maka-analyze tayo ng tama, kailangan meron tayong good data. So ground improvement or yung slope stability. So kailangan natin mag-identify na the part of the job of the geotech is to identify kung ano yung most suitable technology or yung approach para dun sa particular problem. So, geotechnical softwares. Ayun. So, doon sa ground improvement, so sa landslides. So, ang recent trend is use of waste materials for improvement. Pero, yun nga, no? So, hindi naman lahat ng waste materials applicable. So, we must do prior research or testing muna doon sa ating materials kung may potential siya as soil stabilizer or improvement. So, my notes on geotechnical software. So, software is only as good as the data from the soil testing and the experience of the user. So wag tayo masyadong reliant sa output ng software. So, dapat ang role ng engineer is tayo pa rin yung nag-iisip. Yung software is only our tool. So, testing and monitoring. So, trends will most likely be incorporation of low-cost electronics and the use of internet in testing and monitoring. So, low-cost electronics. So, search nyo na lang. So, accelerometer, nabibili na yan sa Shopee. So, medyo kung meron kayong background sa electronics or meron sa Mapua na you can tie up with electrical engineers for thesis, so pwede pag-usapan yan. So pwede sa joint project between electrical and civil engineering. Then yun nga, ay yung Wi-Fi, the use of Wi-Fi, and dun nga doon sa wireless monitoring, so gamit na po siya. No? So I'm sorry, so I was not able to take in questions since this is a pre-recorded video. Pero if you have questions for me, I will gladly answer your emails. So please email me at bccruz4@up.edu.ph. So these are some of my references, and so I think this ends my presentation, and thank you very much for listening.
And that, my dear audience, is Engineer Andre Cruz. And especially napakaganda and napakaraming insights with that talk, especially when it comes to how